I came home from prison and my 9-year-old asked me, "Who are you?" The key turned in the lock of what used to be my home, but the sound felt foreign after 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. My hands shook as I pushed open the front door of the small ranch house on Maple Street, the same door I'd painted forest green the summer before everything went to hell. The living room looked different. New furniture. Different curtains. Photos on the mantel that didn't include me. "Hello." I called out, my voice hoarse from the bus ride from Riverside Correctional. "Jason? Melissa?" Footsteps thundered down the hallway, and then he appeared. My son. My boy who'd been 6 when I last held him, now standing in the doorway at 9 years old, lanky and unfamiliar. His dark hair was longer, his face had lost that baby roundness, and he was wearing a jersey I'd never seen before, number 23, Lakers. But it was his eyes that stopped my heart. They held no recognition. No joy. No anger. Nothing. Just the cautious stare of a child looking at a complete stranger. "Mom," he yelled over his shoulder, never taking his eyes off me. "There's some guy in our house." Some guy. The words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. "Jason, buddy, it's me. It's Dad." I took a careful step forward, and he immediately took 2 steps back. "I don't have a dad," he said matter-of-factly, the same way he might say he didn't have a pet dinosaur. "My dad left when I was little. Mom told me." Melissa appeared behind him then, her blonde hair shorter now, wearing scrubs from her job at Mercy General. Her face went pale when she saw me, but she recovered quickly, wrapping her arms protectively around Jason's shoulders. "What are you doing here, David?" Her voice was steady, controlled. The same voice she'd used when she testified against me in court, swearing she'd seen me threaten Mr. Henderson from next door, swearing she was afraid for her safety. "I live here. This is my house too. And that's my son." I pulled the release papers from my jacket pocket. "I'm out, Mel. All charges dropped. Overturned. You want to explain to me why my boy doesn't know who I am?" Jason looked up at his mother. "Who is he, Mom? Why does he keep saying he's my dad?" I watched Melissa's jaw tighten. She'd always been beautiful, but there was something cold in her face now that I didn't remember from before. Something calculating. "Go to your room, sweetie. I need to talk to this man." "But Mom." "Now, Jason." He obeyed, but not before shooting me one more confused glance. As his footsteps faded down the hall, I noticed something that made my stomach drop even further. On the kitchen counter, clearly visible, was a stack of mail. Bills, mostly. And every single one was addressed to Jason Martinez. Martinez. Not Carver. Not my name. "You changed his name," I said, the words barely a whisper. Melissa crossed her arms. "You need to leave, David. You're scaring him." "Scaring him? I'm his father. I've been sending letters for 3 years. Where are my letters? My calls? You have no rights here anymore." Her voice was ice. "And if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll call the police." "The police?" "Like her boyfriend Officer Rodriguez, who'd been so helpful during my arrest." "Yeah," I said, pulling out my phone. "Let's call them together. I think they'd be very interested in what I learned about how I ended up in prison." For the first time since I'd walked through that door, I saw fear flicker across Melissa's face. The fear in Melissa's eyes lasted maybe 2 seconds before that mask of cold control slipped back into place. But I'd seen it, and we both knew it. "I don't know what you think you've learned, David, but..." Detective Sarah Chen from Internal Affairs was very thorough, I interrupted, watching her face carefully. "Funny how Rodriguez forgot to mention in his police report that he'd been dating you for 6 months before my arrest. Also forgot to mention that Henderson, you remember Mr. Henderson, the one I supposedly threatened? Well, he moved to Phoenix 2 weeks after I was convicted." "Convenient." Melissa's hand moved toward her phone. "You need to leave. Now. Did you know Rodriguez got a commendation for my arrest? Officer of the Month in September 2021. Your boyfriend did real well for himself, getting the dangerous ex-husband out of the picture." I stepped closer, and she backed toward the kitchen island. "What I can't figure out is whether you planned it from the beginning or if it was just a happy accident that Rodriguez could frame me for something I never did. You're delusional. Prison clearly didn't help your mental state. Henderson never filed a complaint against me, Mel. There's no record of it anywhere in the system. But somehow Rodriguez wrote up a report claiming I threatened the old man with a baseball bat. Remember that? The bat they said they found in my truck with Henderson's DNA on it." Her face had gone completely pale now. "Stop. The DNA was planted. Chen found the evidence locker logs. Rodriguez had access, signed in 3 times during the week before they found that bat. Want to guess what dates those were?" "You're lying." "October 15th, 17th, and 19th, 2021. The 19th was the day they arrested me." I pulled out a folded paper from my jacket. "It's all right here. Rodriguez's signature, timestamps, security footage from the evidence room. Chen's got everything." From down the hall came the sound of Jason's bedroom door creaking open. We both turned toward the sound, and I could see his small face peering around the corner, listening. "Jason, I told you to stay in your room," Melissa said, but her voice shook now. "Why is he talking about police stuff, Mom? Did he do something bad?" The question gutted me. My own son asking if his father was a criminal, having no idea that the real criminals were the people he'd been living with for 3 years. "No, buddy," I said, crouching down to his eye level. "I didn't do anything bad. Some bad people made it look like I did, but I'm innocent. That's why they let me come home." "Jason, go back to your room right now," Melissa snapped. But Jason didn't move. He was staring at me with those same dark eyes, my eyes, and I could see the wheels turning in his 9-year-old brain. "Mom always said my dad was mean and left us because he didn't love me anymore," he said quietly. "She said he was in jail because he hurt people." The words hit me like bullets. Each one carefully crafted to destroy any hope of my son wanting to know me. "That's not true, Jason." I never stopped loving you. Not for one single day. I wrote you letters every week for 3 years. I called on your birthday, every birthday. I never left you, son. I promise you that. You're confusing him, Melissa hissed, moving toward Jason. He doesn't know you. You're nothing to him now. We'll see about that, I said, standing up. Because Chen's investigation isn't finished yet. And when she arrests Rodriguez for evidence tampering and filing false reports, I wonder what other interesting facts are going to come to light. Melissa's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went white as paper. What is it, Mel? Rodriguez calling. Maybe tell him Detective Chen wants to have another chat. Melissa's phone kept buzzing in her hand, but she wouldn't answer it. Just stared at the screen like it was a ticking bomb. Answer it, I said. I'd love to hear what Rodriguez has to say right about now. This is harassment, she whispered, but there was no conviction behind it. You can't just come here, Anne. The phone stopped buzzing, then immediately started again. This time, Jason heard it too. Mom, why won't you answer? Is it Carlos? Carlos. So that's what my son called the man who destroyed my life. Not Officer Rodriguez or even Mr. Rodriguez. Carlos. Like family. Everything's fine, baby, Melissa said, but her voice cracked. The phone went to voicemail, then started ringing again. I pulled out my own phone and scrolled to Detective Chen's number. You know what, let me just call Chen right now. I bet she'd love to hear your side of the story. Wait. Melissa's free hand shot out toward me. Just, wait. Mom. Jason stepped closer, and I could see the confusion written all over his face. This wasn't normal behavior from his mother, and kids pick up on that stuff faster than adults think. The house phone started ringing then, the old landline we'd installed in the kitchen years ago. Melissa looked between her cell and the landline like she was trapped. Sounds like Carlos really wants to talk, I said. Probably saw Chen's car in the police station parking lot today. Funny how guilty consciences work. You don't understand, Melissa said, and for the first time, she sounded desperate instead of cold. It's not what you think. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Jason was looking back and forth between us now, trying to piece together something way too complicated for a 9-year-old. What wasn't supposed to happen like what, Mom? She ignored him, staring at me instead. David, if you just leave quietly, we can work something out. Visitation maybe, on weekends. Visitation. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. With my own son. In my own house that I'm still paying the mortgage on. That got Jason's attention. You live here. I own here, buddy. This is my house. Our house. I never stopped paying for it, even from prison. I looked at Melissa. The bank statements show every payment coming from my commissary account, don't they? Every month for 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Melissa's phone had finally stopped ringing, but now someone was knocking on the front door. Hard, insistent knocking. Melissa. Open up. A man's voice, muffled through the door but urgent. Rodriguez. Jason's face lit up. Carlos is here. He started toward the door, but Melissa grabbed his arm. No, sweetie. Stay here with me. But why? Carlos always comes in. He has a key. Has a key. To my house. The house I'd been paying for while Rodriguez slept in my bed and played father to my son. The knocking got louder, more frantic. Melissa, I know he's there. Chen's got warrants. We need to talk now. Warrants. The word hung in the air like smoke. What are warrants? Jason asked, looking between his mother and me. I crouched down again, meeting his eyes. They're papers that police get when they have proof someone broke the law, Jason. It means they're going to arrest the person who did bad things. David, shut up, Melissa hissed. The knocking stopped. Then we heard the sound of a key in the lock. Too late for that phone call now, I said, standing up and stepping between Jason and the front door. Looks like Carlos decided to let himself into my house. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway, still in uniform, his face flushed and panicked. When he saw me, his hand instinctively moved toward his service weapon. I wouldn't, I said calmly. Not in front of the kid. And definitely not with Chen's people probably watching the house. Rodriguez's hand hovered over his weapon for 3 long seconds before he slowly let it drop to his side. His eyes darted between me, Melissa, and Jason, like he was calculating odds in his head. Hey there, champ, he said to Jason, forcing a smile that looked more like a grimace. Why don't you go watch TV in your room for a bit? The grown-ups need to talk. But I want to stay, Jason said, moving closer to me. I don't think he even realized he did it, but something in Rodriguez's demeanor was setting off alarm bells in his 9-year-old brain. Jason, listen to Carlos, Melissa said, but her voice was shaking now. Actually, Jason, you can stay right here, I said, putting my hand on my son's shoulder. This is your house too. You have a right to know what's been going on. Rodriguez stepped fully into the living room, closing the door behind him. Carver, you need to think real carefully about what you're doing here. Making accusations, confusing the kid. Confusing him. I laughed. You mean telling him the truth? That his father didn't abandon him? That he was framed by a dirty cop who wanted to play house with his mother? David, please, Melissa whispered. Not in front of Jason. But Jason was looking up at Rodriguez with a strange expression. Carlos, why did you say there were warrants? What did you do wrong? Smart kid. Too smart for his own good, maybe. Rodriguez crouched down to Jason's level, but I noticed he was sweating now, beads forming on his forehead despite the cool October air. Sometimes adults have misunderstandings, buddy. It's nothing for you to worry about. Chen's got the evidence locker footage from October 2021, I said conversationally. Amazing quality on those security cameras. You can see everything, Rodriguez signing in, Rodriguez accessing evidence box 247A, Rodriguez staying in there for 43 minutes on October 19th. Want to guess what was in box 247A? Shut up, Rodriguez said, standing up fast. The baseball bat they claimed was mine. The one with Henderson's DNA conveniently smeared on it. Except Henderson never filed a complaint, did he, Carlos? Because I never threatened him. Hell, I barely knew the man. Jason tugged on my shirt. What's DNA? It's like fingerprints, buddy, but smaller. It proves who touched something. I kept my eyes on Rodriguez. Except when someone plants it there to frame an innocent person. You can't prove anything, Rodriguez said, but his voice lacked conviction. Actually, Chen found Henderson 3 days ago in Phoenix. Lovely conversation they had. Turns out, Henderson remembers you visiting him twice in September 2021. Remember those visits, Carlos? When you asked him about his problems with his neighbor? When you convinced him to provide a DNA sample for protection purposes? Melissa sank down onto the couch like her legs had given out. Oh God, Carlos. You told me David really did threaten him. You said. I said what I had to say. Rodriguez snapped, then caught himself and lowered his voice. Everything I did was for us. For our family. Our family. I repeated. You mean my family. My son, my house, my life. Jason looked up at me, then at his mother, then at Rodriguez. Mom, did you lie to me about my dad? The question hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. Baby, it's complicated. Did you lie? Jason's voice was getting louder, more insistent. You always tell me lying is wrong. Did you lie about my dad leaving me? Before Melissa could answer, Rodriguez's radio crackled to life. Unit 47, what's your location? He grabbed for the radio, then thought better of it. Let it crackle again. Unit 47, respond. Detective Chen needs to speak with you immediately. Rodriguez looked at the radio, then at Melissa, then at me. This isn't over, Carver. You're right, I said. It's just getting started. Rodriguez's radio crackled a third time, more insistent now. Unit 47, this is dispatch. Detective Chen is requesting your immediate location for official business. The color drained from his face completely. Jason was staring at the radio like it might explode, while Melissa had her head in her hands. You have to answer that, I said. Unless you want Chen's people tracking your GPS. Oh wait, they probably already are. Rodriguez fumbled for the radio, his hands shaking. Unit 47 to dispatch. I'm off duty. Can this wait until tomorrow? Negative, Unit 47. Detective Chen says it's urgent. She's en route to your location now. My location. Rodriguez's voice cracked. How do you? Your vehicle GPS shows 1247 Maple Street. Please remain there until Detective Chen arrives. The radio went silent. Rodriguez stared at it like it had just pronounced his death sentence. Carlos? Jason's voice was small, scared. Why do the police want to talk to you? You are police. Sometimes police have to talk to other police, champ, Rodriguez said, but he was backing toward the kitchen, looking like a trapped animal. It's probably just paperwork stuff. Don't lie to him anymore, I said. He's heard enough lies for one lifetime. Melissa finally looked up from her hands. Jason, baby, come here. Come sit with mommy. But Jason didn't move. He stayed right next to me, and I felt something shift in my chest. Some tiny spark of hope. I want to know what's happening, he said. Everyone's acting weird and scared, and I don't understand why. Rodriguez was at the kitchen counter now, rifling through the mail pile. Looking for something. What are you doing? Melissa asked. Where are the backup documents? The ones from Henderson's complaint. What documents? I stepped closer. There was no complaint, remember? Henderson never. The ones we prepared, Rodriguez snapped. Just in case. Where did you put them, Mel? Melissa's face went white. Carlos, you said we'd never need those. You said the case was solid. What backup documents? I demanded. Rodriguez spun around, his hand moving to his weapon again. Stay back, Carver. In front of my son. Really? I didn't move, but I could feel Jason press closer to my leg. What documents, Melissa? She started, then stopped. Carlos said we needed insurance. In case anyone ever questioned Henderson's story. What kind of insurance? Forged complaints, Rodriguez said, apparently deciding he had nothing left to lose. Backdated police reports. Henderson's signature on documents he never signed. 3 years' worth of evidence that you were an unstable, violent ex-husband. The room went dead silent. Even Jason seemed to understand that something monumentally important had just been said. You forged evidence for 3 years. I whispered. We built a case, Rodriguez said defensively. Everything looked legitimate. Hospital records showing Melissa's injuries from your domestic violence. Witness statements from neighbors who saw you acting erratically. Even a psychiatric evaluation recommending you be kept away from Jason for his safety. None of that ever happened. But it could have. Men like you, they always escalate. I was protecting them. Men like me. The rage was building now, hot and dangerous. You mean innocent men? Fathers who love their sons. Jason tugged on my shirt again. Dad, he said quietly. Everyone froze. It was the first time he'd called me dad since I'd walked through that door. Did you really not leave me? His voice was barely a whisper. Did they really lie about everything? Before I could answer, headlights swept across the front windows. A car door slammed in the driveway. Detective Chen had arrived. The knock on the door wasn't like Rodriguez's frantic pounding. 3 measured raps, professional and authoritative. Through the front window, I could see Detective Chen's unmarked sedan in the driveway, along with 2 patrol cars that had pulled up silently behind her. Police. Open up. Rodriguez looked like he might bolt for the back door, but Melissa grabbed his arm. Don't make this worse, Carlos. Please. Jason pressed closer to my side, his small hand gripping my shirt. Dad, I'm scared. That word again, Dad. Even with everything falling apart around us, hearing it made something fierce and protective surge in my chest. It's going to be okay, buddy, I said, keeping my voice steady. The police are here to help. No they're not, Rodriguez muttered, then louder, coming. He straightened his uniform shirt and walked to the door, every inch the professional officer. When he opened it, Detective Chin stood there with two uniforms behind her, neither of whom looked particularly friendly toward their fellow cop. Officer Rodriguez, Chin said, stepping inside without invitation. Ms. Martinez. Her eyes found mine. Mr. Carver. I see we're all here. Good. Chen was a small Asian woman in her 50s, but she carried herself like someone who'd seen every lie and heard every excuse. Her gaze swept the room, taking in Rodriguez's sweaty face, Melissa's tears, and Jason clinging to my side. Is this your son? She asked me. Yes, ma'am. Jason Carver. Actually, his legal name is Jason Martinez, Melissa said quickly. I had it changed after. After you had his father falsely imprisoned, Chen finished. Yes, I'm aware of the timeline. She pulled out a small recorder. I'm going to record this conversation. Officer Rodriguez, you have the right to remain silent. Wait, Rodriguez said, holding up his hands. Detective, maybe we should discuss this privately. The time for private discussions ended when we found Henderson in Phoenix, Chen said. He was very cooperative once he understood the scope of what had been done with his forged signature. Jason looked up at me. What's a forged signature? It means someone wrote Mr. Henderson's name without permission, buddy. To make it look like he said things he never said. Chen nodded approvingly. That's exactly right. Mr. Henderson never filed a complaint against your father. He never claimed to be threatened. In fact, he barely remembers speaking to your father at all. But the police report. Melissa started. Was fabricated by Officer Rodriguez here, Chen said, turning to face him. Along with evidence locker manipulations, planted DNA evidence, and falsified witness statements. We've got security footage, digital records, and now Henderson's full cooperation. Rodriguez's radio crackled again. All units, be advised, arrest warrants have been issued for Officer Carlos Rodriguez, badge number 2847. Charges include evidence tampering, filing false reports, and conspiracy to commit perjury. The words hit Rodriguez like physical blows. He stumbled backward, bumping into the kitchen counter. Carlos? Jason's voice was small and confused. Are they going to arrest you like they arrested my dad? It's different, champ, Rodriguez said desperately. I didn't do anything wrong. I was trying to protect you and your mom from. From what? I interrupted. From a father who loved his son. From a man who worked double shifts to pay for this house and Jason's Little League fees. Chen stepped between us before things could escalate. Officer Rodriguez, I need you to remove your weapon and place it on the counter. Slowly. Rodriguez's hand hovered over his service pistol for a long moment. The two uniforms behind Chen shifted, ready to act. Don't do anything stupid, Chen said quietly. Not in front of the child. Finally, Rodriguez unholstered his weapon and set it down. One of the uniforms immediately moved to secure it. Carlos Rodriguez, Chen said, pulling out handcuffs, you're under arrest for evidence tampering, filing false police reports, conspiracy to commit perjury, and obstruction of justice. As the cuffs clicked around Rodriguez's wrists, Jason started to cry. I don't understand what's happening, he sobbed, burying his face against my leg. For the first time in 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days, I was able to hold my son while he cried. As Rodriguez was led away in handcuffs, Jason's sobs echoed through the house. Detective Chen dismissed the patrol officers but remained behind, her sharp eyes taking in the family drama still unfolding. There's more we need to discuss, she said, settling into the armchair across from where I sat on the couch with Jason still clinging to me. Ms. Martinez, the investigation uncovered some additional evidence that concerns your involvement. Melissa, who'd been crying quietly since the arrest, looked up with red-rimmed eyes. What do you mean? Chen pulled out a manila folder thick with documents. Bank records showing payments of $2,300 monthly from Officer Rodriguez's account into yours, starting December 2021. Care to explain what those payments were for? The number hit me like a physical blow. $2,300, almost exactly what I'd been sending for mortgage and child support from my commissary account. Carlos was helping with expenses, Melissa said weakly. Jason's school, clothes, food. Helping. I lifted Jason's tear-stained face to look at his mother. You were getting money from both of us. I sent every penny I could earn in prison, and Rodriguez was paying you too. David, it wasn't like that. We also found text messages between Ms. Martinez and Officer Rodriguez from October 2021, Chen continued, flipping through the folder. Would you like me to read them aloud, or would you prefer to explain them yourself? Jason had stopped crying but was listening intently, his 9-year-old brain trying to process revelations that would challenge most adults. What did the messages say? I asked. Chen adjusted her reading glasses. October 12, 2021, 11:47 p.m. Martinez to Rodriguez. He called again tonight asking about his weekend with Jason. I can't keep making excuses much longer. Rodriguez responds, don't worry baby. After Friday everything will be different. He won't be a problem anymore. Friday. October 15th had been a Friday, the day of my arrest. October 14th, 2021, 2:33 p.m., Chen continued. Rodriguez to Martinez, Henderson's playing ball. Got his signature on the complaint this morning. Told him it was for a neighborhood watch program. Martinez responds, what if David fights the charges? Rodriguez, with what evidence? I've got 3 witnesses lined up and physical proof. He'll take a plea deal. The room spun around me. 3 witnesses. I'd never found out who they were because my public defender had pressured me to accept the plea deal, 7 years reduced to 3 with good behavior. Who were the witnesses? I managed to ask. Mrs. Chen from 1251 Maple, not related to me, Detective Chen said dryly. Mr. Williams from 1239 Maple. And interestingly, a Jane Doe who provided a written statement but was never available for testimony. Jane Doe. Chen's eyes fixed on Melissa. The handwriting analysis came back yesterday. Want to guess whose handwriting the Jane Doe statement was written in? Melissa's face crumpled. I was scared, David. You'd been so angry after I asked for the divorce. Carlos said you might hurt me, hurt Jason. I never laid a hand on either of you. The words exploded out of me, causing Jason to flinch. I immediately gentled my voice. Sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to yell. But Dad, Jason said quietly, Mom showed me pictures of her bruises. She said you gave them to her. My heart stopped. What pictures? Chen was already pulling out another set of documents. We found those too. Metadata analysis shows they were taken in Rodriguez's apartment, not this house. The timestamps show they were taken after Mr. Carver was already in custody. Carlos hit you. I stared at Melissa in horror. And you let him blame me for it. He said it was necessary, Melissa whispered. For evidence. To make sure you couldn't get custody and try to take Jason away from me. Jason pulled back to look at both of us. Carlos hit Mom. But he's supposed to protect people. The innocence in his voice broke something inside me. This kid had been living with a man who was violent enough to beat his mother for fake evidence, while being told his real father was the dangerous one. Jason, I said carefully, did Carlos ever hit you? David, don't, Melissa started. Did he? I pressed, studying my son's face. Jason looked at his mother, then back at me. He got really mad sometimes. When I asked questions about you. He said asking about you made Mom sad, so I should stop. That's not what I asked, buddy. A long pause. Then, barely audible, he pushed me once. Really hard. I fell down and hit my head on the coffee table. Jason pointed to a small scar near his hairline that I'd noticed earlier but hadn't wanted to ask about. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Pure, white-hot fury that someone had put their hands on my child. When? The word came out like a growl. Jason, you don't have to, Melissa said quickly. Last month, Jason said, looking directly at me. I found some letters in Mom's closet with my name on them. When I asked Carlos about them, he got really angry and said I was being a brat. That's when he pushed me. Letters. My letters. The ones I've been writing every week for 3 years. You kept them, I said to Melissa. You kept my letters but never gave them to him. She nodded miserably. I couldn't throw them away. But Carlos said reading them would confuse Jason, make him ask questions. Make him remember his father loved him, I finished. Detective Chin cleared her throat. There are 73 letters total. Plus birthday cards, Christmas presents that were never opened, and approximately 47 recorded voicemail messages to the house phone. Jason's eyes went wide. You sent me presents. You called me. Every birthday, buddy. Every Christmas. I never forgot. My son looked at his mother with an expression I'd never seen before, disappointment mixed with betrayal. Mom, why didn't you tell me? For the first time since this nightmare began, Melissa Martinez had no answer. Detective Chen's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it with a frown. Ms. Martinez, I need to ask you about something else that's come to light. We've been in contact with Jason's school. Melissa went rigid. His school. Specifically, his guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson. She's been documenting some concerning conversations she's had with Jason over the past year. Chen flipped to a new section in her folder. According to her notes, Jason has repeatedly asked about changing his last name back to something else because he felt like Martinez wasn't really his name. He also told her he had dreams about a man who looked like him and asked if it was possible to have a father you'd never met. I felt Jason's hand slip into mine. Such a small gesture, but it meant everything. The school psychologist also noted behavioral changes starting around January of this year, Chen continued. Aggression toward authority figures, specifically male teachers. Fighting with classmates who talked about their fathers. Jason told Mrs. Patterson he got angry when other kids complained about their dads because, at least they have one. I never knew he was fighting, I said, looking down at my son. I got in trouble a lot, Jason admitted quietly. Mom had to come to school for meetings. Carlos always came too, and he'd tell the teachers I just needed more discipline at home. More discipline. From a man who'd pushed a child hard enough to leave a scar. Chen's phone buzzed again, and this time she answered it. Detective Chen. Yes, I'm still here. What? When? Are you certain? Okay, I'll be right there. She hung up and looked grimly at all of us. There's been a development. Officer Rodriguez is claiming he has additional evidence that could implicate Ms. Martinez in a conspiracy. He's offering to cooperate fully in exchange for a reduced sentence. The color drained from Melissa's face. He's lying. Whatever he says, he's lying to save himself. Maybe. But he's provided us with some interesting information. Like the location of the original complaint forms that were forged with Henderson's signature. Apparently, they're hidden somewhere in this house. I felt the world tilt. What forms? Rodriguez claims there are backup documents that Ms. Martinez helped create. Insurance, in case the original frame-up didn't hold. Forms that would support allegations of domestic violence, stalking, even threatening behavior toward Jason's teachers and coaches. I never threatened anyone. We know that now, Chen said. But if these documents exist, they represent ongoing conspiracy to commit fraud. Which would make Ms. Martinez a co-conspirator rather than just a victim of Rodriguez's manipulation. Melissa was shaking her head frantically. I never helped create anything. Carlos brought papers for me to sign, said they were for Jason's school records, insurance forms. What papers? I demanded. I don't know. Legal documents, official-looking things. He said since Jason's last name was being changed, we needed to update all his records. I signed what Carlos told me to sign. Chen stood up. Ms. Martinez, I'm going to need you to show me where those documents might be. Rodriguez was very specific about their location. He said they were in the master bedroom closet, Jason said suddenly. All three adults turned to stare at him. I heard him tell Mom to make sure they stayed in the box behind her winter coats. He said they were important papers that proved you were bad, Dad, and that if anyone ever questioned what happened, those papers would keep me and Mom safe. My 8-year-old son had been living in a house full of forged evidence designed to destroy his father's life. Jason, Chen said gently, how long ago did you hear Carlos say this? Last week, right after he pushed me. They were fighting about the letters I found, and Carlos said if I kept asking questions, he'd have to use the papers to make sure you could never come back. Chen was already heading toward the hallway. Ms. Martinez, I need you to come with me. Mr. Carver, please stay here with Jason. As they disappeared down the hall, my son looked up at me with eyes full of confusion and hurt. Dad, are they going to arrest Mom too? The question hung in the air between us, and I realized I was looking at my son, really looking at him, for the first time since walking back into this house. The way he held himself, shoulders hunched like he was expecting another blow. The careful way he watched my face, reading my expressions for signs of anger. This wasn't just a kid who'd forgotten his father. This was a child who'd been living in fear. I don't know what's going to happen with your mom, buddy, I said honestly. But whatever happens, you're safe now. I promise you that. From the bedroom came the sound of boxes being moved, Chen's authoritative voice asking questions I couldn't quite make out. Melissa's responses were muffled, tearful. Jason climbed up onto the couch next to me, something he wouldn't have done an hour ago. Dad, can I ask you something? In my dreams, the man who looked like me, he was always trying to tell me something, but I could never hear what he was saying. Was that you? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. What do you think? I think maybe I remembered you, even when Mom said I shouldn't. He picked at a loose thread on his jeans. Sometimes I'd get really mad and I didn't know why. Carlos said I had anger problems like my dad did, but I wasn't angry like that. I was just sad. Really, really sad all the time. I was sad too, Jason. Every single day. Did you really send me letters? Every week. I wrote about what I was learning in the prison library, about books I thought you'd like when you got older. I told you about the sunrise I could see from my cell window and how it reminded me of the morning you were born. I paused. I wrote about how proud I was of you, even though I couldn't be there to see you grow up. Jason was quiet for a long moment. Then, Carlos said fathers who really loved their kids would never go to jail. He said if you loved me, you would have been good. Carlos said a lot of things that weren't true. But some kids at school, their dads did leave them. How do I know you won't leave again? Before I could answer, Chen's voice carried down the hallway, sharp and professional. Ms. Martinez, I need you to explain why your signature appears on a falsified psychiatric evaluation dated March 15, 2022. This document claims Mr. Carver made threats against Jason's safety during a phone call that our records show never took place. March 15, 2022. Jason's 8th birthday. I tried calling the house that day, got the machine, and left a voicemail singing, happy birthday, and telling him I loved him. According to this document, I'd apparently used that same call to threaten my own son. I never read what I was signing. Melissa's voice was getting higher, more panicked. Carlos said they were custody protection forms. Jason heard it too. Mom's in big trouble, isn't she? Yeah, buddy. I think she is. More sounds from the bedroom, papers rustling, Chen's voice recording notes into her phone. Then footsteps returning down the hallway. Chen emerged first, carrying a cardboard box that looked heavy. Melissa followed behind her, crying openly now. Ms. Martinez, Chen said, setting the box on the kitchen counter, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit perjury, filing false statements, and child endangerment. Child endangerment? I stood up, Jason still pressed against my side. 47 falsified documents designed to prevent a father from accessing his child, Chen said grimly. Including forged medical records claiming Jason had expressed fear of his father, and fabricated teacher reports suggesting Mr. Carver had made threatening phone calls to the school. I called the school twice, I said. Once to ask if I could send Jason a birthday card through them, and once to see if he needed any supplies I could arrange to pay for. According to these forged reports, those calls were interpreted as stalking behavior and threats against school staff. Jason looked up at me. You tried to send me birthday cards at school too. I tried everything I could think of, son. Chen was reading Melissa her rights, but Jason wasn't paying attention to that. He was staring at the box of documents that had been used to steal 3 years of his life with his father. All those papers were about me, he asked quietly. All of them designed to make sure you'd never know the truth about your dad, Chen confirmed. That's when Jason did something that surprised everyone in the room. He got angry. Those papers are stupid and mean. Jason shouted, his small hands balled into fists. I wanted my dad. I asked for my dad every day when I was little, and Mom said he didn't want me. It was the first time I'd seen my son truly angry, and the fire in his eyes looked exactly like my own when I was his age. Jason, sweetie, please calm down, Melissa said through her tears, but Chen was already moving to handcuff her. No. Jason yelled louder. You lied to me. You and Carlos lied about everything. He turned to me, his face flushed red. Dad, she has a whole box in her closet with my baby pictures and yours together. She looks at them sometimes when she thinks I'm sleeping. Chen paused mid-arrest. What kind of pictures? Pictures of when I was really little, Jason said, his voice shaking with emotion. Dad teaching me to walk, Dad reading to me, Dad pushing me on the swing at Patterson Park. She keeps them in a shoebox under her winter boots. I felt like I'd been punched. You kept our pictures. Melissa's face crumpled completely. I couldn't throw them away. Seeing you with him, how happy you both were. Then why? The words exploded out of me. If you knew how much we loved each other, why would you do this to him? To us. Because Carlos said Jason would be better off without the confusion, she sobbed. He said kids from broken homes have problems, and if Jason thought his father abandoned him, he'd bond better with Carlos as a father figure. Bond better? I looked down at the scar on Jason's forehead, thinking about my son getting pushed around by a man who was supposed to protect him. How did that work out? Chen finished cuffing Melissa and turned to Jason. Son, these pictures your mom kept, do you remember where exactly she hides them? In her closet, behind the purple box with her fancy shoes. There's letters in there too, but not the same ones I found before. These ones are really old. I knew exactly what letters those were. The ones Melissa and I had written to each other when we first started dating, when we talk about the future and the family we'd build together. Before everything went wrong. Detective Chen, I said, what happens to Jason now? If you arrest Melissa, emergency custody will be evaluated by Child Services, she said. Given that Mr. Carver's conviction has been overturned and he's the biological father with no history of actual domestic violence, temporary custody would likely be granted to him pending a full hearing. Jason's head snapped up. I get to stay with my dad. That would be up to the family court judge, but yes, it's very likely. For the first time since I'd walked through that door, Jason smiled. Really smiled, not the confused, scared expression he'd been wearing. It transformed his whole face, and I could see the little boy I'd left behind 3 years ago. Can we go get ice cream? He asked. I haven't had ice cream in forever. Carlos said sugar made kids hyperactive and Mom always listened to him about stuff like that. Ice cream. Such a simple request, but it represented everything I'd missed. Every small joy, every normal father-son moment that had been stolen from us. We can get as much ice cream as you want, buddy, I said, then looked at Chen. How long will this process take? A few hours to process Ms. Martinez, then we'll need Jason to give a statement tomorrow with a child advocate present. After that, emergency custody can be arranged within 48 hours. As Chen led Melissa toward the door, my son called out, Mom. Melissa turned, hope flickering in her eyes. I still love you, Jason said quietly. But I'm really, really mad at you. The honesty in his voice broke my heart and filled it with pride at the same time. After Chen left with Melissa in custody, the house felt different. Quieter, but also somehow larger, like we could finally breathe. Jason sat on the couch next to me, swinging his legs and staring at the box of forged documents Chen had left behind as evidence. Dad, can I ask you something else? Anything, buddy. What's prison like? Was it scary? I thought about how to answer that honestly without traumatizing him further. Sometimes it was scary. But mostly it was just empty. Like being in a place where nothing good could happen, where every day was exactly the same. Did the other prisoners know you didn't do bad things? Some of them figured it out. There was this older guy, Marcus, who helped me learn how to research legal stuff in the library. He said I talked about you too much to be the kind of man who'd hurt his family. Jason nodded solemnly. I'm glad you had a friend. My phone rang then, startling both of us. Detective Chen's number. Mr. Carver, we have a problem. Rodriguez is claiming he has more evidence hidden at a second location. He says there are financial documents that prove you were planning to kidnap Jason before your arrest. That's impossible. I know that, but he's got timestamps and bank records that need to be investigated. The problem is, he's demanding to speak with Jason before he'll reveal the location. Ice shot through my veins. Absolutely not. I agree, but there's something else. Rodriguez claims Jason has been in contact with him since the arrest. Phone calls from this house about an hour ago. I looked at Jason, who had gone very still. Buddy, did you call Carlos? Jason's face flushed red. I was scared, he whispered. After they took him away, I wanted to ask him why he lied about you. I used Mom's phone while you and the detective were talking. What did you tell him? I asked him why he said you were mean when you're not mean at all. And I told him about the pictures Mom kept of us together. Jason's voice got smaller. He got really mad and said I was being stupid. Then he said he had proof you were planning to steal me away, and that if I wasn't careful, you'd take me somewhere Mom could never find me. Chen's voice crackled through the phone. Mr. Carver, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Jason just confirmed he spoke to Rodriguez. What exactly did Jason tell him? I put the phone on speaker. Jason, can you tell Detective Chen what else Carlos said to you? Jason looked nervous but spoke clearly. He said he had papers that proved Dad was planning to take me to Mexico. He said the papers were in a storage unit downtown, and that if Dad tried to get custody, Carlos would make sure everyone saw them. Mexico. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't even have a passport. Rodriguez is getting desperate, Chen said. Fabricating evidence as he goes. But Jason, this is very important. Did Carlos ask you to do anything? Did he want you to go somewhere or bring him something? Jason nodded miserably. He said if I really loved Mom, I should bring him the box of old pictures tonight. He said visiting hours at the jail end at 9 o'clock, and that if I came alone, he'd tell me the truth about everything. He wants you to come to the jail. The protective rage flared again. Jason, you are never going anywhere near that man again. But what if he really does have papers that say bad things about you? What if they believe him? Chen's voice was firm through the speaker. Jason, listen to me carefully. Carlos Rodriguez is a liar who hurt you and your family. Nothing he says can be trusted, and any papers he claims to have are fake, just like all the others. But what if? No what ifs, I said, pulling him closer. We're done with Carlos's games. Whatever he's planning, whatever lies he's telling, we'll deal with it the right way. Through Detective Chen, through the lawyers, through the courts. Jason was quiet for a moment, then, Dad, are you going to send me away if I'm too much trouble? If Carlos keeps making problems? The question gutted me. After everything this kid had been through, he was worried about being abandoned again. Jason Michael Carver, I said, using his full name deliberately, I spent 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days thinking about nothing except getting back to you. There is nothing Carlos Rodriguez could say or do that would ever make me send you away. You're my son, and I'm your father, and that's never going to change. For the first time since I'd come home, Jason smiled without reservation. Can we still get that ice cream? Absolutely. But first, we're changing the locks on this house and disconnecting that landline. Carlos's games are over. Through the phone speaker, Chen's voice carried a note of satisfaction. Mr. Carver, I couldn't agree more. The next morning brought news I wasn't prepared for. Detective Chen called at 7:43 a.m. while Jason was eating cereal at the kitchen table. Lucky charms, because after 3 years of prison food, I was letting my kid have sugar for breakfast. Rodriguez made bail, she said without preamble. His union posted the $50,000 bond at 6 a.m. The spoon slipped from my hand, clattering against the bowl. How is that possible? You arrested him for evidence tampering, conspiracy. His lawyer argued that Rodriguez has been a decorated officer for 8 years with no prior complaints. The judge set conditions: no contact with you, Melissa, or Jason, surrendered passport, GPS monitoring. But David, there's something else. Jason looked up from his cereal, reading the tension in my voice. I forced my expression to stay calm. What else? The storage unit Rodriguez mentioned. We found it. Unit 847 at Secure Store on Hamilton Avenue, rented under a fake name but paid for with Rodriguez's credit card. David, there were over 300 documents inside. 300. My blood ran cold. What kind of documents? Fake medical records spanning 4 years. Forged psychiatric evaluations claiming Jason told his pediatrician he was afraid of you. Falsified school reports suggesting you'd made threatening phone calls to teachers, coaches, even the school nurse. And David, there were photographs. What photographs? Jason had stopped eating entirely, watching my face with those dark eyes that missed nothing. Photos of Jason at school, at the park, at his friends' houses. Hundreds of them, taken with a telephoto lens over the past 6 months. Rodriguez was building a case that you'd been stalking your own son. The room started spinning. That's impossible. I was in prison until yesterday. We know that. But Rodriguez had timestamps doctored to show these photos were taken during your brief work release periods last spring. I never had work release. Prison records confirm that. But Rodriguez created falsified documentation claiming you'd been granted day passes for job interviews. The photos were his proof that you used those passes to stalk Jason instead. I looked at my son, who was now openly listening to every word. The idea that someone had been photographing him, watching him, planning this elaborate frame-up while I rotted in a cell. Dad? Jason's voice was small. Is Carlos still trying to hurt us? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see a black sedan in the driveway, not Detective Chen's car. This one had government plates. Chen, someone's at my door. Black sedan, official looking. That would be Agent Sarah Martinez from the FBI. FBI. Why is the FBI? Because Rodriguez's conspiracy crossed state lines. Those fake documents claiming you were planning to flee to Mexico. He actually filed reports with Border Patrol suggesting you were a flight risk. There are federal warrants in the system flagging your name. The doorbell rang again, more insistent. Detective Chen, are you telling me that even though I'm innocent, even though Rodriguez is exposed, there are still federal warrants out for me? Agent Martinez is there to sort that out. But David, until those warrants are cleared, you're technically still considered a federal fugitive. Don't let anyone else know you're home. Jason's eyes went wide. Dad, are we in trouble? No, buddy. We're going to be fine. But as I hung up and walked toward the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that Rodriguez's games were far from over. Even from jail, he was still pulling strings, still trying to destroy what was left of my life. The woman at the door held up her badge as I opened it. Mr. Carver. Agent Martinez, FBI. We need to talk. Agent Martinez stepped into my living room with the kind of authority that made it clear this wasn't a request. She was younger than Detective Chen, maybe mid-30s, with short auburn hair and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of the house. Mr. Carver, I need you to understand the severity of your situation. Officer Rodriguez filed reports with 3 federal agencies claiming you were planning to abduct your son and flee to Mexico. Those reports triggered automatic alerts in our system. Jason had abandoned his cereal and was now standing beside me, his small hand gripping my shirt. Dad, what's she talking about? It's complicated, buddy, I said, then looked back at Agent Martinez. What kind of reports? She pulled out a tablet, swiping through documents. May 15, 2024, report filed with Border Patrol claiming you'd been asking cellmates about smuggling routes through Tijuana. June 3, alert sent to ICE suggesting you had contacts in Guadalajara who could hide you and a minor child. July 22, Homeland Security notification that your prison commissary account showed suspicious money transfers. Money transfers? $347 sent to an account allegedly linked to a human trafficking operation in Nuevo Laredo. She looked up from the tablet. Except our investigation shows the account actually belongs to Rodriguez's cousin, Maria Santos, who lives in San Antonio and runs a legitimate daycare center. The web of lies was so elaborate, so detailed, that even hearing it dismantled I felt sick. Rodriguez sent money to his own cousin and claimed it was for human trafficking. Gets better. Santos confirms Rodriguez asked her to accept the transfer, told her it was for a surprise birthday party for his girlfriend. She had no idea the money was coming from your commissary account or that Rodriguez was using her as fake evidence. Jason tugged on my shirt. Dad, what's human trafficking? Agent Martinez crouched down to his level. It means bad people who try to take children away from their families. But your dad never did anything like that. Some very bad people lied and said he did. You mean Carlos? Among others. She stood back up, her expression grim. Mr. Carver, there's something else. Rodriguez made bail this morning, but he violated his conditions within 2 hours. My blood froze. How? GPS monitoring shows he drove past Jason's school 3 times between 8:15 and 8:45 a.m. School cameras confirm a vehicle matching his truck circled the parking lot during morning drop-off. He was watching the school. The protective rage flared so hot I could barely see straight. While kids were being dropped off. School's been notified and they've implemented lockdown protocols. But Mr. Carver, this suggests Rodriguez isn't done. The storage unit we found yesterday. It contained more than just forged documents. She swiped to a new screen on her tablet, showing crime scene photos of the storage unit's contents. Boxes of papers, yes, but also camping gear, a road atlas with routes to Mexico highlighted in yellow, and prepaid cell phones. He was planning something, Agent Martinez continued. We found handwritten notes outlining a plan to grab Jason during his walk home from school, drive to a cabin Rodriguez rents in West Virginia, and hold him there until you agree to flee the country together. That's insane. Why would I flee anywhere? I'm innocent. Because Rodriguez's plan was to frame you for Jason's kidnapping. Make it look like you snatched your own son, then rescue Jason and return him to his mother as the hero cop who stopped a dangerous fugitive. The room spun around me. Jason was looking back and forth between us, trying to process revelations that would challenge most adults. Agent Martinez, I said carefully, where is Rodriguez right now? That's the problem. His GPS tracker went offline at 9:23 a.m. Last known location was the parking lot of Mason Elementary School. Jason's school. The school Rodriguez knew he attended, where he'd been circling the parking lot like a predator. We need to find him, I said. We're trying. But Mr. Carver, until we do, you and Jason aren't safe here. My phone rang while Agent Martinez was still explaining the protection protocols. Detective Chen's number again. David, we have a major problem. Rodriguez isn't just off the grid, he's actively making moves. We intercepted a call he made to someone at 9:47 a.m. Who? Marcus Webb. Your cellmate at Riverside Correctional. The name hit me like ice water. Marcus, the older guy who'd helped me with legal research, who'd listened to me talk about Jason every single day for 2 years. Marcus, who'd been released 6 months ago. What did Rodriguez want with Marcus? Agent Martinez was listening intently, her hand moving to her service weapon. Rodriguez offered Webb $5,000 to make contact with you. Told him to call and claim he had information about who really set you up. The plan was to get you to meet Marcus at Patterson Park, the same park where you used to take Jason. Patterson Park. Where I'd taught my son to ride his bike, where we'd spent countless Saturday mornings before my world fell apart. It's a trap, I said. Obviously. But David, there's more. Webb recorded the call, apparently being in prison taught him not to trust anyone completely. Rodriguez didn't just want to lure you to the park. He wanted Marcus to bring Jason with you. Jason looked up at me, his face pale. Dad, why does Carlos want me to go to the park? Agent Martinez answered before I could. Because he's planning to take you away from your father, Jason. Make it look like your dad kidnapped you. But why would anyone believe that? Because Rodriguez has spent months creating fake evidence that your father is dangerous, she said gently. If you disappeared while you were with your dad, and Rodriguez found you and rescued you, everyone would think your dad really was the bad guy. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Don't answer that, Agent Martinez said quickly. But Jason was faster. He grabbed the phone from my hand and hit accept before either of us could stop him. Hello. His young voice carried clearly through the speaker. Jason. Buddy, it's Carlos. Are you okay? Is your dad treating you well? Agent Martinez immediately started gesturing for backup while pulling out her own phone to trace the call. I'm fine, Jason said, his voice steady. Dad made me Lucky Charms for breakfast and said we can get ice cream later. That's great, champ. Listen, I know there's been a lot of confusion lately, but I found some important papers that prove your dad is innocent of everything. Would you like to see them? I reached for the phone, but Jason held it away from me, his eyes locked on mine. There was something calculating in his expression that reminded me eerily of myself. What kind of papers? Jason asked. Papers that show it was all a big mistake. But Jason, I can only show them to you in person. There are bad people who don't want your dad to be proven innocent, so we have to be careful. Where are you, Carlos? I'm at our special place. Remember the park where you learned to ride your bike? Where your mom used to push you on the swings? Patterson Park. Just like Chen had said. Carlos, Jason said, his voice taking on an edge I'd never heard before, did you really hit my mom to make fake bruises? Silence on the other end of the line. And did you really push me and give me this scar on my head? More silence. Jason, Rodriguez's voice was different now, less friendly. You're asking questions that are too complicated for a kid to understand. I understand that you're a liar, Jason said clearly. And I understand that my dad never hurt anyone. Then my 9-year-old son hung up on the man who destroyed our lives. Agent Martinez stared at him in amazement. That was incredibly brave, Jason. It was also incredibly dangerous, I said, my heart hammering. Now Rodriguez knows we're onto his plan. Actually, Agent Martinez said, checking her phone, now we know exactly where he is. The call was traced to a cell tower 3 blocks from Patterson Park. We've got him. The next hour moved like a carefully choreographed operation. Agent Martinez called in backup while Detective Chen coordinated with local police to surround Patterson Park. Jason and I were escorted to a safe house 3 miles away, a nondescript ranch home where we waited with 2 federal marshals while the net closed around Rodriguez. Dad, Jason said, curled up next to me on an unfamiliar couch, when this is all over, what happens to us? What do you mean, buddy? I mean, do we get to be a real family again? Like before? The question hit me harder than any of Rodriguez's lies. Jason, we never stopped being a real family. Even when we were apart, even when you didn't remember me, you were still my son and I was still your father. But I want to remember everything now. Will you tell me stories about when I was little? Every single one, I promised. Starting with the day you were born at 6:47 a.m. on March 15, 2015. You had the loudest cry in the entire maternity ward. Jason giggled, the first truly happy sound I'd heard from him. Really? Really? The nurse said you were announcing to the world that Jason Michael Carver had arrived and everyone better pay attention. Agent Martinez's radio crackled to life, target acquired. Rodriguez is in custody at Patterson Park. No shots fired. Repeat, Rodriguez in custody. The relief was so overwhelming I actually felt dizzy. It's over, buddy. It's really over. But Jason had one more question. Dad, what about Mom? Detective Chen arrived 20 minutes later with news about Melissa's situation. She'd agreed to cooperate fully with the investigation in exchange for a plea deal, 2 years probation and mandatory counseling instead of prison time. She'll be required to complete a parental alienation recovery program, Chen explained. And Jason, if you want to see your mother again someday, that will be your choice. But for now, you'll be staying with your father. The custody hearing 3 weeks later was almost anticlimactic. With Rodriguez facing federal charges and Melissa's cooperation revealing the full scope of the conspiracy, Judge Patricia Walsh granted me full legal custody in less than 30 minutes. Mr. Carver, she said from the bench, the court finds that you have been the victim of an elaborate and malicious conspiracy designed to separate you from your son. Your parental rights are hereby fully restored. Walking out of that courthouse with Jason's hand in mine, both of us carrying copies of the custody order that made it official, felt like being reborn. 6 months later, Jason asked if he could change his name back to Carver. Are you sure, buddy? That's a big decision. I'm sure, he said, looking up at me with those dark eyes that were so much clearer now. Martinez never felt like my real name anyway. I want to be Jason Michael Carver, like you said when I was born. Like when you announced to the world you'd arrived. Exactly. He grinned. Besides, Rodriguez got 22 years in federal prison yesterday. I think it's safe to say the Carver name isn't going anywhere. On the first anniversary of my release, Jason and I visited Patterson Park. Not because of Rodriguez's twisted plan, but because it was where we'd made our happiest memories before everything went wrong. Dad, Jason said, sitting on the same swing where his mother used to push him, do you know what the best part about having you back is? What's that, son? I don't have to wonder anymore who I am when I look in the mirror. Neither did I.